and severity. And so let's say you have a serious problem. Well, if you have a serious problem, it's going to be emotionally engaging. It's really going to matter to you how the problem is formulated and solved. It's actually going to matter. And so then you produce a diversity of opinions about the problem and how to solve it, because you need a diversity of opinions, because you have a problem and you want to solve it, but because it's emotionally engaging, you're going to find a certain number of the opinions distasteful, even hateful. Okay, well, fair enough, but how are you going to protect yourself against that and still be able to think? And you might say, well, you don't need to think, which seems to be the default conclusion. It's like, good luck with that. Why do you have to think? You have to think because that's how you simulate the world. And so you simulate the world through thinking. You play out the consequences of a particular pattern of action. If the consequences are negative, then you don't embody the pattern of action. Then you don't die. So the reason that you think is so that you don't die. And if you're going to think about contentious things, then it's going to be offensive, terribly offensive. You're going to get the full range. And sometimes you're going to be wrong about being offended. It's like, you're wrong, seriously. And this thing you find so offensive, it's exactly what you need to correct your viewpoint. And that happens to people all the time in their life. You all know that. You know perfectly well that there are periods of time where you had to undergo a painful, radical psychological transformation for your own good. And the way that you managed that was to learn something extremely bitter and distasteful. And if someone would have asked you, even while it was occurring, is this something you want to know? Are you happy about being exposed to it? The answer would be most definitively no, because it leads you down into that state of disintegration that's necessary before you put yourself back together. And the right to be offensive is absolutely indistinguishable from the right to think. And so you interfere with that at your peril, especially as a consequence of like well-meaning compassion that's mostly aimed at minimizing short-term conflict. It's just, it's not, there's nothing in that that's going to have a positive outcome. All we'll get is polite people who say nothing offensive, who can't think or produce art or anything of value, and who can't solve problems, and who avoid short-term conflict at all cost. And that's not a society I want to live in. So, and it's not a society that's going to have much of a lifespan in front of it. So.
Okay. Let's do